Okay, do I have to talk now? I don't, just take that in. I don't know about you, but that was the talk. That was the whole, okay, we can go now. I'm actually shaking. I am so, let's give some more love to Bill and Brian. You know, I didn't even know that song until this week. Right? So here's how it works. I am very involved with the music ministry, as Brian and all the soloists know, and I work on the theme, the feel, the message, and then I go, here's some songs that might work, and then we correspond, and it's either, yes, we can do that, or I have something else that works. Well, as I was exploring, I found this song, and it's from Hercules, that's right, Disney film in 1997. And when I heard those words, I went, wait a minute, this is Palm Sunday. If that isn't a corresponding song that, for me, it just met it so much. A hero's welcome. They'll be waiting for me as Jesus walks into Jerusalem, having the cheering crowd, the crowds of the cheer when they see his face, right? And the voice that says, I'm where I'm meant to be. Jesus was doing his dharma. He was going for that fate. And he needed to go the distance. That was the whole thing. There was things ahead of him. And it was a scary time down this unknown road that he was traveling. He was going to stay on track, not lose hope, and stay on that. A hero's strength is measured by his heart. It was a shooting star, and I will go the distance. And to find the hero's welcome waiting in your arms, that line speaks to me as that going the distance, I will find my home in everyone's heart as I do this journey. So again, I had never heard the song, and now it plays in my head. My inner DJ plays it a lot now. It is a beautiful song, and I knew that Bill would just blow it out, which he did, of course. So metaphysically, Palm Sunday is actually the beginning of what is known as the greatest transformation of mankind. Did you know that? No. Well, you're going to be in for a lesson today. The transformation is the dying of limiting beliefs, limiting thoughts of who we are. It is the end of limitation and victimhood, and it is that dying to that and to awakening to the truth, to the unlimited freedom that we have as the divine. That's this transformational story. In Unity, we study the Bible, and we view the Bible metaphorically as the story of every man and every woman's evolution of consciousness. I want you to hear that. The central story in the Bible is one of the evolution of consciousness. That's it. Everything in there is about our consciousness. You are the main character in the story. In the Bible. You are the main character. And every place, person, and situation is in truth an aspect of yourself and your evolution in consciousness. And what we're doing is we're following Jesus, who was the prime example and way shower of this transformation from an Adam mindset. The Adam mind was the self-aware. I'm aware of myself, and I'm separate from everyone else. The Christ consciousness, cosmic consciousness, is about we are all one. I'm not separated from you. It just appears that way. And that we are all the divine in expression. So we're transforming our consciousness in this way. And I also like to have the analogy of a butterfly. When you see a butterfly that is the caterpillar, it is limited. And yet, that caterpillar is actually, in truth, an unlimited being. And I'll talk more about that in today's talk. So today is Palm Sunday. Today is your Palm Sunday. The question is, are you willing to go the distance in transforming your own consciousness, of moving in the evolution of your consciousness? Because in truth, everything in the entire universe that you see, touch, feel, experience comes from one place and one place only, and that is here, our consciousness. It is all about the consciousness, and we want to shift our consciousness. And that's what the whole story of Palm Sunday is about. The story is about us. The story of Jesus is about you and about me and about everybody who's longing to be free. This story plays over many times. Passover, for example, and that's when Jesus was going into Jerusalem that time with everyone else. And Passover in the Old Testament, it was about the Israelites who were enslaved by the Egyptians. And so this is consciousness. You have to look at this as, okay, well, how does that fit consciously? Where are you a slave to some of your limiting bully thoughts, right? See, these are all metaphors. The Egyptians were very controlling. Where are you controlling your own self and not believing in who you are? So plagues came. For me, what is a plague? We say, oh yeah, God sent this plague. Well, actually, it's an outpicturing of some poor belief systems, okay? There's consequences to what we are thinking, and there's race consciousness or cosmic consciousness that we are engaged in, whether we like it or not. So it's an outpicturing, and we have plagues, things that happen as a result of not having that God consciousness. The final way of breaking through this enslaving mind that we have was to send death to the firstborn of all beings, except for those that had the X marked with the Lamb of the blood on their doorpost, and it would pass over them, and the firstborn of those Israelite families would not need to be killed. They wouldn't die in their sleep. So Passover actually starts this Friday, when Good Friday. So what is that? Well, as I was contemplating this, the firstborn is that first thought that you had that was not true about yourself. The first time, because as a child, you were God. And then you were told, no, you're not, right? And so it's the firstborn. There's a killing off. Now, the Israelites, to me, that signifies the part of me that does know the truth, that is connected to the truth, and it's not going to get killed off. I'm only killing off those limiting beliefs. So that's the Passover story of transformation, of being let go. So now we're going to go to Jesus, our great way shower. He started off with two names. He had Joshua, which Joshua, and that was his cultural name. His second name was Emmanuel, and that means one with God. The story of Jesus is his transformation from Joshua the man, cultural identity, to that of Emmanuel as the Christ consciousness, everything and everyone is the divine. That is the story of Jesus. Now, he, at age 12, started this journey. He was lost. They couldn't find him. His parents couldn't find him. And they went to the temple, and they found Jesus, 12-year-old, and they're like, what are you doing here? And he goes, I'm in my Father's house. He started his journey of transformation at age 12. Then he wandered, and nobody knows where he went until he showed up at around age 30. My guess is he went to India. I do have some documentary about Jesus in India. I believe he traveled to India and studied with the gurus, the yogis, and spiritual masters. So Jesus shows back up in his evolutionary story and begins teaching. He is the great teacher. What did Jesus teach? He taught about the divine. There's two aspects to the divine. There is the impersonal, which is the law and the principles of creation that we teach in unity, the 5 principles. And he taught the personal, that God is love, and that we are to love one another, that we are to be loved. It was his whole teaching, love and the law. Love and the law. As we, and you look at the 5 principles, God is all there is. He taught that. We are the divine in expression. He says, know ye not you are gods. He says, he talks about how our thoughts are creating. It is done unto you as you believe. Principle number 3. Principle number 4, he taught about prayer and how prayer makes us aware of what's already there. We just give thanks. All of his prayers, he gave thanks because he knew it was already there. And number 5 principle is you embody and you live these principles. It's not enough to just know them. However, Jesus was more than just coming to teach. He needed to do something more. He needed to physically demonstrate these principles, these laws, and this evolution of consciousness in a physical form. We get caught up with the physical form, but behind it, metaphysically, what's beyond the physical is this story of evolution, of the moving from the atom, caterpillar, limited life, to the free butterfly, cosmic, everything is one life, the Christ consciousness. So we're coming to Holy Week. Holy Week actually starts the day before Palm Sunday. Did you know that? I knew. Okay, so it's called Lazarus Saturday. Okay, Lazarus was a good friend and had those sisters Mary and Martha. Well, Lazarus was ill, and Jesus heard of it, but he didn't even bother heading in the direction until a couple days later, and it took him a couple more days to get there. And he gets there, and Lazarus has been deceased for 4 days and is in the tomb. And the sister Martha comes out and says, Lord, if you had been here, I know he wouldn't have died. And Jesus basically said, well, this was part of the plan. This is, my ad lib. And he goes to the tomb, and he says, roll away the stone. And then he gives thanks to the Father of beingness and says, and actually commands, Lazarus, arise, come out. And there arose and came out Lazarus. Okay, that's the story. What does that represent metaphysically? Well, the 3, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, are actually stages of our consciousness. Martha was the outgoing, conscious, outer-directed doing person. Mary is that part of us that is inner-directive, intuitive. And Lazarus is that part that is asleep to his divinity. He's unconscious, does not understand that he is the divine in expression. He's asleep, and he needs to wake up. So my question to you is, what part of you needs to wake up to your divinity? I don't know that any of us is 100% in our awakeness, 100% of the time. I would like to aspire to that. So the questions that I will ask you are, where are you asleep in terms of your divinity, of knowing the truth of your being? What area or areas? That's question 1. And question 2 is, what is the stone or stones that is blocking you from having that? And most of the blocks that we have are in consciousness. It's a belief that we're going to hang on the cross on Friday. It's about Xing out those limiting beliefs that we have been taught. So let's go within for just a moment and just take a breath. Now ask yourself, where am I asleep to the truth of my being, to the truth of divinity being all? Just listen. I'm asleep. And have no judgment. Just know that whatever came is for your awareness. And now ask yourself, what is the stone or belief, limiting belief I have that blocks my divinity, my realization of my divinity? Good. Good to be aware. Awareness is the key to being free. Without awareness, to be aware and to be awake. Awaken, Lazarus, rise up. We need to rise in consciousness. We need to wake up to the truth. You know, the Buddha was once asked, "Who are you?" And they asked him, Are you an angel? And Buddha said, no. Are you a saint? No. Are you a great teacher? No. Then who are you? I'm awake. Okay? We are here to wake up. It's time. We can't continue to sleepwalk. The work is now. Christ consciousness is calling you and calling me, and are we willing to go the distance on crucifying the false beliefs? Because that's what needs to be crucified. So now we're going to move to Palm Sunday, since we're now awake and aware. Palm Sunday, if you don't know the story, it becomes ready to move into Jerusalem, Jesus and his disciples. He tells two of his disciples, go into the village, and there's a little foal, a colt of a donkey that is there, never been ridden. Untie them, bring them to me. If they ask, just say that the Lord needs them. And so they bring them the colt. They put their cloaks on them. Jesus gets on the colt and rides into Jerusalem. The crowds are super psyched because they heard about all his miracles. He's coming into Jerusalem. They're so excited, and he's just raised Lazarus from the dead. So they're out there along the road, and they're saying, Hosanna, blessed be he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the heavens, in the highest good and glory. And they're putting down their cloaks, and they're putting down these palms, and here comes Jesus into the city. Now I have to give you a side note about Sammy. Little 5-year-old Sammy on Palm Sunday, he had a sore throat, and he could not go to church that day. He had to stay home with the babysitter. So he stays home. His family comes back, and they're carrying palm fronds. And he's like, well, what are those? And his dad says, well, Sammy, when Jesus came, we put down, they put down the palm fronds for him to cross over. And little Sammy goes, oh, wouldn't you just know it? The day that I don't go to church, he shows up. You gotta say, right? So, what does this metaphysical story about Palm Sunday even mean? What does it represent? Well, I'm going to take us to the story of the caterpillar going and becoming the butterfly. What needs to happen for that transformation to take place? Would you like to know? Yes. Good. The caterpillar has to die. The caterpillar has to die. The caterpillar has to die to its way it sees itself. It has to die to its limiting thoughts of what it can and cannot do. It has to die to all that it's ever known. It has to die to what it's always known. Now, did you know, in order for that transformation to take place, that there are imaginal cells in that caterpillar that must be activated for this transformation to take place? Yes, imaginal cells. Okay, if that doesn't say something about the imagination and how important that power is, that's why we studied it in January. Because the first thing you got to do is engage in this imagination to have a picture. So these imaginal cells have to be activated. Now here's the thing, the caterpillar fights. The caterpillar and its immune system actually fights the imaginal cells. And then the imaginal cells happen to be of a higher power. And finally, that disengages that struggle, and the transformation takes place. Okay? So that's the story of this caterpillar. And when I look at Lazarus in the tomb, that was his cocoon. The tomb is the cocoon of where transformation happens. So comparing this into the story of Jesus and his journey of going from the limited consciousness of his cultural being to the divine cosmic Jesus, or the Christ consciousness, he needed to move through a death. And I think fully well that Jesus knew what he was in for. I don't think he had any doubt that he was facing death. Was he afraid? I would imagine so. I imagine that Jesus was just as human as you and me. He had all the emotions, and he showed anger, he cried, he laughed. He was human. Was he afraid? I'll bet he was. But what got him through that fear was that he had the imaginal cells. He could see the vision of something beyond the literal and the physical, that he was going to die to the limited consciousness of self and rise up. He had to have that vision, those imaginal cells activated. He was tapped into that bigger picture. He knew he had a dharma, a purpose, and a mission. His mission was to demonstrate to us that we can face our biggest fear, our biggest challenge, lose our identity. Do you know that that's the scariest thing? Who would you be without knowing who you've been? That's huge. Who would you be? We hang on to what we've known because, hey, it's familiar, it's family. I know this. But to go beyond that into something we don't know, that's scary. Well, that's why Jesus had to have a donkey. And you're like, okay, make some sense out of that. He needed the donkey and not a horse. On the other side of town, the king was coming in on a horse with the army. Big show. Well, first of all, there's humbleness when you know who you are. You don't need to put on a show. You know who you are. The thing about a donkey is that they don't prance and strut like a horse. They are sure-footed. They don't spook easily, okay? You don't see anyone going in the Grand Canyon on a horse. You see them going on a donkey. The donkey is going to take its time. It's going to persevere. It's going to take one step at a time, and that is the will of the donkey lined with Jesus going, okay, this is scary, but we are going forward. We are going the distance, one step at a time on the donkey. I don't need a show. I just need to follow my path, my dharma. So this is the story for us to consider. Just one little advent. What happened after he rode into the city of Jerusalem? And by the way, what does Jerusalem stand for? Inner peace. That place where we have the peace that passes all understanding. That is the Jerusalem that we enter into when we become the Christ consciousness, when we understand that it's all divine, and I could be afraid, or I could really understand that and trust, so I can move forward in my dharma, in my mission. So Jesus enters the city. And where does he go? He goes to the temple. And he goes to the temple and he finds money changers and people selling their wares. He gets ticked off. He throws the tables. He yells. He gets really, really upset. You've made my house a den of robbers and thieves. This occurred to me yesterday thinking about this part. This temple, think about your temple, okay? Where's your temple? Right here. What's in your mind that is cluttering? You have to throw out those thoughts, those robbers that are robbing you of your truth. That is what he did. He had to keep working in his consciousness. The whole week is all about his consciousness so that he could emerge as the butterfly, as that we all are. His dharma, he knew his dharma. He even said at the end, he goes, Father, am I to say, save me from this hour? No. What he said was, it was for this very reason that I have come to this hour. Are you willing to come to this hour? My assignment for you this week. Yes, you always get an assignment. That's right. First of all, you get to activate your imaginal cells, okay? I would like you to go, what is my Christ being like? What is my ideal? If I was truly in a full-on Christ consciousness, and write it down, make a picture, whatever. Activate your imaginal cells, because without that vision, you're not going to cross out anything. You're going to stay in the familiar. What is it that you would love more than anything as your ideal self? Activate your cells. This is ABC. B, blocks. What blocks your way? What beliefs are blocking your way? Identify those. And C, create. Create your denials. A denial is, this thing has no power over me. This belief has no power over me. That's what a denial is. It's not denying the thing, it's denying it has any power, because we give things power that have no business having power. There's only one power, and that is the power and presence of truth and love. And that's the affirmation. So you create denials, has no power. The truth is, I am unlimited being. I am, in truth, a unlimited butterfly. And I'm willing to go the distance. I'm doing the work and transforming my life and the world. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you willing?
Yes.
Then let's do this climb together. And so it is.